You ever just play a video game and it's kinda holding your attention, it's not doing anything exceptionally well, but it's not so incredibly boring you want to turn the game off? Then suddenly, the clouds part, light shines down, and your ears are blessed with God's beautiful sounds, aka the game's fire soundtrack. Music in video games has always been something that affects how memorable a game is. Sure, gameplay and story definitely make or break a game, but when the music is compelling, it can elevate a game even higher than before. Just like a nice smelling hand soap or a warm towel, good music in video games just makes the game more, you know? Take for example Final Fantasy X. You buy this game because you want to know what all the fuss is about with this incredibly long franchise. After just finding out that the games aren't connected, you pick the first game that looks interesting and launch it up. You haven't even started a new game yet, and you're met with this. You just know you're going to play an incredible game after hearing this masterpiece. Video game music comes in so many kinds of forms. Some games prefer to use music sparingly, saving it for intense or emotional moments. Take most FromSoft games for example. While exploring the world, you'll be met with the cold, eerie atmosphere where every enemy needs to kill you as soon as possible, regardless of if you even did anything to them. However, after stepping through that fog and being met with some horrendous abomination, you're also met with some of the most bombastic, exciting music you'll ever hear. You're geared up to fight Gehrman, preparing for him to absolutely rock your shit the second you step into his domain. You refuse his ultimatum and he sees fit to send you back to avoid this endless nightmare. You're then met with this earth-shattering soundtrack as he attacks you 12 times in a row.
Tonight, Gehrman joins the hunt.
Or take the final boss fight in Dark Souls 1. After an incredibly grueling journey through a land that was torn apart by one man's lust for power, you trudge through this ash-riddled city that would give your grandpa a run for his money, and come face to face with the Lord of Cinder, Gwyn. You expect an earth-shattering soundtrack that would send your home straight into the sky, but instead, you're met with this. Now, the boss fight is just a sad, crusty old man that refuses to give up his power, and you having to bitch slap him while parrying every one of his attacks. These are just some examples of using music sparingly to set the tone of certain moments. But then we have the reverse, where music is constantly played throughout the entire game, setting a different mood depending on where you go or what you do. The best example for this is everyone's favorite game series that they've never played, Persona. No game does constant music blaring in your ears as well as the Persona series.
Every day's great at your Junas.
The game has a music track for literally everything. Just chilling around the school or walking around Tokyo? Banger. Airsoft shop? Banger. Supermarket? Banger. It's hard to not find a banger in this masterpiece of a soundtrack. And this goes for all the Persona games too. Shoji Meguro, let me give you a kiss and my social security info, cause god damn, this shit is making my ears vibrate. It takes an especially talented individual to craft music pieces that don't become annoying considering they play on a constant loop. Not to mention the incredible battle music that adds even more energy into a fight. Sure, turn-based gameplay kinda reeks, but with this music, I'm now playing the best form of gameplay on the planet. I didn't think beating the shit out of a sexual predator could get even better. With how often you'll be hearing these banging tunes, the moments where the music just stops is so striking. It makes your brain immediately think that something is wrong, and most of the time, something is. A good use of music is knowing when to not use any, and the Persona series does a great job with this too. Soundtracks are also more than just pieces of music. They can also be atmospheric identifiers. Basically, they create a mood using different sounds. This is especially used in horror games. A great example is Silent Hill 2. There are some amazing tracks in this game like Theme of Laura that feels like an intro song to an early 2000s movie, which, to be fair, Silent Hill 2 is an early 2000s game that feels like an interactive movie, but anyway. There are also tracks in the game that are purely there to scare the shit out of you, like when you go down the longest stairway known to man and keep hearing these blaring horns until they eventually start playing over each other, giving you a heads up that where you're heading is going to be an abysmal experience. It utilizes more than just music. Things like heavy breathing, horns, banging machinery, grunting, and so much more are used to convey not only the terrifying environment of Silent Hill, but also the decaying mind of James himself. Wonderful work, Konami. Now please start making actual video games again. I mentioned a lot of examples so far that do an amazing job at elevating a game's soundtrack to the next level, but I feel like I need to mention the soundtracks that really don't do enough. They're almost a reflection of the games themselves. Take for example the Horizon franchise, a game that is so run-of-the-mill that even the music for the game is just unmemorable noise made to give off some sense of engagement. It's the Marvel approach to making video game music. Marvel is known to make music soundtracks for their movies that are purposefully forgettable. I don't remember the reason, but I promise it isn't a good one. Why bother making a soundtrack if there isn't anything memorable about it? It's the same question to ask for why bother making games like Horizon in the first place. Game soundtracks tend to be a reflection of the games themselves. Sure, there are games with great soundtracks, but the game itself isn't anything to write home about. But a good game can be made into a great game with just the right use of FL Studio. I feel like it's becoming a trend for these big budget franchise games to half-ass any attempt at a great soundtrack. Take for example Modern Warfare 2 2022. This game has a decent theme, but it's nothing compared to the heart-pounding, adrenaline-pumping, patriotic feeling of the original Modern Warfare 2. I would explain, but this meme basically explains it all.
Oh, you can't play music with a piece of paper!
Hooray! Hooray! That was great, Squidward. All those wrong notes you play made it sound more original.
What? I didn't play any wrong notes.
Yeah, see, you're playing it like this. When ordinarily it goes like this. I'm partial to doing it in the key of A minor myself. Nothing like a duet between buddies.
The new theme is flat, bland, and uninspired. The original theme is bombastic, thrilling, and really does a great job at putting the energy of the game into music. Another example is the Far Cry series. I know for a fact you don't remember any tracks from any of the recent Far Cry games. However, I know you remember this banger from Far Cry 3. This is one of my favorite tracks because it perfectly encapsulates the deterioration of Jason as he slowly becomes more and more desensitized to the violence of the island, almost reveling in it at some points. It expresses the high Jason feels of committing all these horrendous acts of violence and the low points of realizing what he's done and who he's becoming. These are two blockbuster game series that once put in effort to create some lasting musical pieces, but now churn out emotionless tracks that go in one ear and right out the other. Video game music is something that has been planted into people's brains all the way back in the 80s. It's as integral to a game as any other aspect. Indie games to massive AAA releases all have some amazing pieces of work put into their OSTs. Some games go above and beyond, while others fail to take off, and some don't even try. We all have some music tracks that have stuck with us for a long time, whether it's because they hold nostalgic value, left a mark that you can't forget even if you tried, or just because it sounds wonderful to your ears. Music in video games has done more for us than just set the tone. It's what connects our memories back to the games we played. Sure, you may play a game from your youth and not like it as much as you thought you would, but one thing always stays the same. When a music track hits, it'll hit for as long as you're alive.